Hey guys, welcome back. And the other day I saw something on the internet where somebody was amazed that somebody had made a gasket, and I guess I was a little confused because to me, making weird or odd gaskets that you don't have, or they're out of, they don't make them anymore, or they're just hard to find, or I got a buddy who restores old tractors, so gaskets are really hard to find. So you end up making your own. Now let's say you've got yourself a really complex shape. Now this one doesn't need a gasket. This is something else. This is just something I found lying around in this shop. But this will serve our purpose because it's got some very odd shapes. You just can't, you know, you can't just like measure it and make it. It's not a square. It's not a rectangle, right? But you've got a very odd shape, but you still need a gasket for this. Let's say you do. Now also, if you notice, this thing also has a slight curve to it too. So now you're getting into three dimensions here, and that's going to be a problem. So making a gasket's pretty easy because they sell gasket material, this stuff, right? And they make different stuff. You can get it in felt, or you can get it in rubber or whatever, because depending on what your flavor is of that day. So making your own gasket really isn't that hard. Even a head gasket, which is more of a complicated gasket, isn't that difficult because it's just layers of really thin metal. Now, it's really easy. I could just kind of plop this down, right? And I could stencil it out, and boom, I could cut it out and I get a new one. But let's say this part is somewhere hard to reach, or you can't take it off the machine, or it's big, right? It's just really big, and you can't just plop her down and do that. One of the easiest ways to make a gasket, and I did this when I was, I'm going to put that away for a sec, when I did the mini tub on the Camaro that I had. It had this really weird shape where it was kind of a trapezoid, but also had this curve to it, and I couldn't take the frame off the car to make a stencil. That didn't work. And so it had this really weird shape. So what I did was I took a piece of cardboard, and usually the thicker the better. Get yourself some thick cardboard, and you take whatever shape it is you're trying to replicate. Let's say this is on the car, and I can't take it off the car to get a good stencil. So what I like to do is that's the car, it's not going anywhere, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my mallet, I'm going to take my really thick cardboard, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just lay it flat against it, because remember, the part's not moving, right? And I'm just going to tap. Remember, this is where that thick cardboard comes in. Oh, son of a diddly, that hurt. Tap all around it. Okay. Okay. Now, I should have, there we go. Get you a good, we've got a shape, and it's even got a little bit of holes where the holes are. So now I can go ahead and start cutting this out. Show you the indent of the shape here. You can see the shape, very complex, again, very complex shape, right? So we'll go ahead and all right. So we got ourselves a stencil. Now you've got our shape, right? Not bad, right? Okay. Next step. All right, let's clear this junk out of here. Cardboard and the like, that's going away. Okay. What I like to do sometimes for these holes, you can do a bunch of things to actually locate where the holes are, but what I like to do is, you can use a socket or something if you want to get in there, but again, go back to your bit here, hold it in place. Okay. I've got that. Okay. Got our hole locations. Now what I like to use a punch set to just kind of approximate the hole. So I've got one that's pretty close. That's pretty close to the right size. That's perfect. So I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead. You won't always have this opportunity when you do it, if you can pull the piece off, but hey, wherever you can, right? So give it a little tap. Should have a, oh, of course I did it on the painted side. That's not going to work. So, on this side, right? Okay, so you can punch that out. Actually, what I'm going to do is I've got a block of wood. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to punch it through. I've already drilled a hole. I'm going to try and punch it through this little hole. Well, crap, cardboard ripped on me. That is okay, never fear. We can still do this. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to locate those holes in a second. But what we're going to do is, now that we've got our very complex shape, even if, okay, so let's say it's got a bend to it, right? We've got a nice bend. Is when you put your cardboard in there and you start pounding on it, and when you flatten it out, it will flatten out to the shape that you're looking for. So even if it's got some nice curves to it, it will still do that, because what will happen is by the time you get it here, you cut out whatever it is. It could be metal, it can be, if it's a gasket, you can use gasket material. You can start bending it and it will be that shape because you've taken something very pliable. Okay, so let's go ahead and, I'm going to go ahead and, now that I've got a stencil, and mark it out. Now this doesn't have to be perfect because look, it's a gasket. It's just, it's keeping out gas or oil or, fluid of some sort that you just don't want getting let out of the motor. So I'm just going to go ahead and pretend I drew that. So that's pretty close. And it's okay if your gasket's a tad bit bigger than your thing. You can always trim it later, but the idea is to keep the liquid in the thing, right? That's the goal. I'm going to get our trusty scissors out, and we're going to make this a little bit nicer this time. Okay, there we go. Now you actually have an actual gasket material, right? Here we are. We can line it up, right? She's a little big on a couple ends, but hey, that's a gasket that's going to work, okay? So we could even, if we wanted to locate our hole, right, you can come up to the part, locate your hole using one of your smaller punches, if you liked, to kind of locate a hole. Now you come in here, get a razor. As a matter of fact, I'll go get a razor. Got my trusty X-Acto blade. Okay. Then come in here. Now you've got yourself a gasket. Pretty simple. Where did my part go? There's my part. Okay. I'm going to line it up to the part. There we go. That will hold whatever material you need back. Now you could make this a little bit nicer and you could trim out the edges and that sort of things. But this is how you make, custom stuff when you don't have it. I mean, yeah, I can go back and I can trim this and make it a little bit more pretty, and that's not hard to do. But it's always easier to take it off the material than it is to put it back on. So I'm okay making it a slight bit bigger than what I've got because this totally encapsulates the entire piece and will hold in whatever I need to hold into, especially if it's hanging on the part and I need to marry a part to it like so. So again, you can make it nicer, you can make it easier, but this is not hard to do. So when the person was impressed that somebody had made their own custom gasket, this is not hard. This stuff is cheap. You can buy rolls of this stuff for $2-3, super cheap, and all you got to use hammer. If you have a chance to stencil it out, that's the best part. You make yourself a stencil, and now you can repeat it. You can make these anytime you want. Sell them to your buddies if you want to. So I guess I'm just a little confused as to why this was so hard, or what was the big deal was. But this is basically what we're doing, right? So anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good one. Talk to you guys later.